I'm wrestling with God. I'm like, why is it that so many, and they have big churches and people are flocking in, and we need a couple of million over here, God. I mean, and I believe we're doing the right thing. Why aren't you immediately killing those guys? Well, once again, they didn't take a deity position. They just in the wrong position. Then he said, well, I'm not letting them slide neither, because remember, before you left SFBC and merged here, I gave you a dream and told you I was going to be exposing all of these false teachers over the pulpit because they refused to dispose of their wickedness. And so he was all over the place. Mega churches. I'm not calling names. You can see it. Raping children in their own church, their own congregate children, molesting them, all kinds of hideous sins that would disgust us in an environment like this. He was exposing them, and still is today. So he healed my aching heart and the questions that subsided in my soul. Why him and not them? But we look at the word in verse 24, how the word increased. Why did the word increase? It multiplied. Because once you get the devil out your life, you can do the work of God. The word will not increase by itself. It needs feet. So the word increased. It multiplied. It just multiplied. But I want to talk to you about glory real quick. Because this is what Herod done. Herod tried to take God's glory. Now, many of you, if I can ask you a question, let's do the open study thing. I didn't do this in the first service. I'm almost verbatim though, and I'm getting good at this. no, God help me. But let me ask you a question. When you hear "give God the glory," what comes to mind? Blessings, praise out of your mouth for His goodness. What else comes to mind? Praise. When you hear "give God the glory," what comes to mind? Worship. Life to worship God. Yeah. Excuse me. I would agree with all that. But let's mess with the word glory real quick, because we understand that a man was killed by an angel of God because he did not give the glory to God. He did not release God's glory that the man was giving him back to God. He did not say, "Here is your glory," because they are trying to give it to me. God killed him immediately, but there's another form of glory that some of us hold that we're not releasing. And this particular form of glory is expressed through three different forms, and one of them is ethical glory. I want to talk about that for a minute. I only got 10, but I'm going to talk about it for about 8. Y'all all right with that? So if I start speeding a little bit, catch me. But the glory of God is a beauty. It's a power. It is His honor, His dominion. He reigns forever. It's a quality of His characteristics and His ethical behaviors that are implemented in the earth that none other can have. He is omnipotent. He is omniscient. He is omnipresent. There is none who is like Him. He is splendor. He's awesome. He's wonderful. The Bible called Him terrible. That means He's above all and none can be above Him. He's magnificent. He's immutable. He's indisputable. He is God all by Himself, and nobody can match up to Him. He's immatchable. He's matchless. He is Yahweh. He is the King of Kings, Lord of Lords. How many people you know can match up with that? If you're in the building, say amen. Oh, all of y'all can match up with that? That was a trick. No one. So when we look at the glory, we're looking at the emphasis on God's greatness and His authority, His power, His beauty, how He is expressed. I want to talk about the morality of God's glory. How is the morality of God's glory expressed through men? For instance, some of us say, well, when we give God the glory, when it's expressed through men, you may hear maybe praise, and that's part. But let's go to the ethical side of God's glory being expressed through men. we should not kill, we should not steal, we should not lie, we should not hate, right? And all these different things we should not do. That is the ethical behavior of God's glory being expressed through men. God's moral beauty and his perfections are literally embedded into the heart that was once stone, now turned into a heart of flesh, and now his divine qualities are coming through you. And so what are one of those divine qualities, beloved? The main one is love. What was the first commandment? Listen, he said, love the Lord God with some of you. Just a piece of you. Just maybe your money. Did he say all? Was it A-L-L? Was it L-L-A? It was all, wasn't it? He said, I don't want just some of you. I made you in my image. I put in you the ability to serve me. I put in you the capacity to hold me. I made you in my image, so therefore I want what is mine back. Is he wrong? Well, man's property, in a sense that he created it, and he has the blueprint, he has, what you call it when you get a ideal, he patent. He patent human beings. None of us patent one another. He made us in his image. I mean, why would he make the first commandment in the word towards man, not just in ethical behavior, but one that was of the heart? Love me with everything. What was the second commandment? Some of y'all are scared of that second one, I see. Because nobody can tell if the first one is really happening ethically. Because anybody can say they love God and get away with it. But anybody can't say they love other people and get away with it. I wish 1 John 1 and 4 was here, because he said this: how can you love a God you can't even see, when you can't love him whom you see on a daily basis? Let me tell you the second part. The second commandment of that moral characteristic that God expressed through his physical church, that his kingdom may be realized here on earth, that is giving him glory, is his love through you for all humanity. No longer should we sit on the sidelines of injustice and watch inequalities happen on our job, in our neighborhoods, in our churches. I don't care about the black and white thing or the Hispanic thing. Stand up and fight. Fight against abortion. Fight against these equalities. Make your voice known, church. Well, I don't want any trouble. You asked for trouble when you became a Christian. That's why some of us on the job, they don't know you're a Christian. You laugh at their dirty jokes. That was so funny. So stupid. Because you don't want to expose who you are. When we look in the book of Psalms 113 and 4, I'm not beating you up, I'm telling the truth. God needs his church to stand up. He gave us commandment in the earth. He said, you are the most powerful people here, those who believe in me and receive my gospel. I have put something in you that other folks don't have in the earth. Yes, the Spirit is available to them, but if you don't go get them and tell them about it, they'll never have it. Psalms 113 and 4, the Lord is high above all nations, his glory above the heavens. I want you to look at Romans 3 and 23. Many of you understand this. For all have sinned and fallen short. And fall short of the glory of God. He's letting us know, I'm not trying to call your moral ethics to perfection, because I know they will never be perfect, because his standard is so holy, it's so righteous. He said, I called you to me so I can look at you through my son in a righteous position. So if you come to me and be part of this family, I look at you as my righteousness. That's easy, because when you accept him, you are literally stepping into a righteous family. He is telling us, same book, all of our righteousness is as filthy rags. There's nothing morally or ethically you can do that make God feel warm and fuzzy about you. And it may get other people to say, Oh, but God, he is saying, your righteousness to me, I don't care what you do. You can give up your whole purse. You can give this. You can give that. You can pray for people, speak in 1,000 tongues, lift your hands high, shout, move about, scream, run down the altar, do the slides, do the splits up here, and do backslide, do the Michael Jackson. I don't care. He said it ain't good enough for me. He said everything you do right in my sight without you being in my righteous position, he said it's filthy, and that's how I see it, period, point blank. He expressed himself morally and ethically through our love, through the fruit of the Spirit that's in the heart that has been turned from stone to a heart of flesh. No longer are we prideful anymore, arrogant, but he is lifted up through us. His glory is expressed through his fruit. Secondly, the more beauty of God's perfection, once again, is coming through the creation of earth. We see this, that the things that we see in the book of Romans, things that we physically see, were not made with things that we physically see. But yet they were made from the invisible creator. I remember a child asking me years ago, I didn't give this to the first service, you're special, see. I remember this, a kid asked me a long time. He said, where does birds come from? Well, I was like, wow, that was a good question. I took him to the book of Genesis, where we see the creation of God's dazzling beauty in how the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the earth. You know, I hate this term right here. Don't get me wrong. God is moving. So when did he stop? Thank you. Thank you. He is saying simply to us, I want you to understand what my glory is. So the kid, I said, it's right here. It's in the book of Genesis. Oh, God made them. So in his little mind and in my little feeble mind, he's trying to put together, how did he, did he use a screwdriver? Or did he have a wrench? Can he turn the birds off and on if he want? What was the mechanism that was it? Now this kid got me thinking, yeah. But then God is so powerful, watch this, that he put us together so unique. He made everything in the ecosystem work for each other. Do you not know we need the bees? You can't tell me Darwin's theory of evolution did something so powerful and intellectual like that. I am not convinced. We see the second part of God's glory being expressed in the beauty of his creation. So when we say give God glory, take care of the trees, take care of the land, take care of the things that he made, take care of you, take care of others. Everything that you see that is in natural creation, you, me, and others, is God's glory. That's why we have other religions like polytheism, pantheism, where some believe that God is in all things, like maybe God is in this mic. God, can you hear me? Some believe that he's in the trees, pantheism, polytheism. Some believe he's in everything, but how many know God say, I'm in you? You know how important you are? You're not above others, but you mean the world something. We can change the world by getting this revelation. The last part is of God's glory being expressed. In the sense of the Old Testament, we see the glory of God, and in the New Testament being expressed through his Son. All through the Old Testament, we hear the revelation of Christ, but he is not revealed into the New Testament. And then he says things like this in the book of John chapter 2 and 11. Jesus didn't quote this, but it says, this beginning of signs Jesus did in Cana of Galilee and manifested his glory. And his disciples believed in him. His disciples believed in him because Jesus, the man part, who had full rights to deity, his Father was expressing himself through him. And he turned water into wine. So we're seeing miracles. Old Testament, we see a man with a staff who refused to put it out, and God told him, stretch out your staff.